Commander Zexthal clicked his mandibles in amusement as he watched the human delegation enter the Galactic Council chambers. Their primitive fabric clothing and crude metal accessories stood in stark contrast to the elegant bioluminescent robes and quantum-woven garments of the other species. The humans looked like children who had stumbled into a gathering of gods. "And these are the beings who claim to deserve a seat among us?" whispered Counselor Vexara, her crystalline form refracting light in patterns of derision. "Look at them. They still use combustion engines and metal projectiles. Their ships require manual piloting." The assembled representatives of 17 advanced civilizations shared similar sentiments. The Zephyrians had mastered dimensional folding technology 3 millennia ago. The Cortex possessed neural link interfaces that made individual thought obsolete. The ethereal collective had transcended physical form entirely, existing as pure energy constructs. And then there were the humans, barely 2 centuries into space travel, still bound to their biological forms, still dependent on primitive chemical reactions for propulsion. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood before the council, her weathered hands clasped behind her back. She had spent 30 years in diplomatic service watching humanity struggle to gain respect among the stars. Today felt no different. "Honorable counselors," she began, her voice steady despite the obvious contempt radiating from the assembly. "Humanity requests consideration for Galactic Council membership. We offer our unique perspectives and—" "Unique perspectives?" "Commander." Zexthal's laugh echoed through the chamber like breaking glass. "What could your species possibly offer us? Your technology is millennia behind ours. Your lifespans are barely a flicker. Your minds are isolated, unable to achieve true collective consciousness." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the council. Sarah felt the familiar sting of dismissal, but she pressed on. "We offer adaptability," she said. "Creativity born from limitation. Solutions that others might not—" "Solutions?" Counselor Vexara's form pulsed with amusement. "Child species, we have already solved the problems your kind still grapple with. We have conquered disease, transcended death, achieved perfect harmony. What need have we for your ingenuity?" The vote was unanimous. Humanity's application was rejected, as it had been 12 times before. 3 months later, the first reports reached the Galactic Council. Something was wrong with the Void Wraiths. The Void Wraiths were an ancient menace that had plagued the galaxy for eons, entities of pure malevolence that existed in the spaces between dimensions. For thousands of years, the advanced civilizations had kept them at bay, using sophisticated quantum barriers and dimensional stabilizers. The technology was so refined, so perfect, that the Wraiths had become nothing more than a distant memory, a problem solved by superior intellect. Until now. The barriers were failing. Not through any flaw in their perfection, but because the Wraiths had evolved. They had learned to phase shift through the quantum frequencies, to slip between the mathematical certainties that the barriers relied upon. The ancient enemy was adapting faster than the galaxy's greatest minds could counter-adapt. Within weeks, 3 star systems went dark. The Zephyrians' dimensional technology proved useless. Their precisely calculated folds became entry points for Wraith incursions. The Cortex collective consciousness was their downfall. When one mind was touched by Wraith influence, they all fell. The ethereal collective found their energy forms were indistinguishable from the Wraith's own existence. They became targets, not threats. Commander Zexthal materialized in the emergency session, his usual arrogance replaced by barely controlled panic. "The mathematical models are failing," he reported. "Every solution we devise they counter within hours. It's as if they can predict our technological responses." Counselor Vexara's crystalline form flickered with distress. "Impossible. Our predictive algorithms are flawless. Our technology is perfect." "That may be the problem," a new voice said. The council turned in surprise to see Ambassador Chen standing in the chamber's entrance. She had not been invited. Humanity still held no seat here. "How dare you?" Zexthal began. "Your perfection is your weakness," Sarah interrupted, stepping forward. Your solutions are so elegant, so mathematically pure that they're predictable. You've optimized yourselves into a corner. Preposterous, Vexara declared. Our technology represents the pinnacle of... The Wraiths have learned your patterns because you've eliminated chaos from your systems, Sarah continued. Every one of your civilizations has achieved perfect efficiency, perfect harmony, perfect solutions. But perfection is static. It doesn't adapt. It just is. The council fell silent. The concept was alien to them. And what do you propose? Human? Zexthal asked, though his tone had lost its mocking edge. Let us help, Sarah said simply. Our technology is crude, yes, imperfect, chaotic, but it's also unpredictable. We don't solve problems with mathematical perfection. We improvise, we adapt, we make do. We turn weaknesses into strengths and limitations into opportunities. Over the following days, as 3 more systems fell to the Wraiths, the Council watched humanity work. They watched human engineers jury-rig quantum barriers with duct tape and prayer, creating systems that violated every principle of elegant design, but somehow held. They watched human tacticians develop battle strategies that made no mathematical sense but worked, because they were too irrational for the Wraiths to predict. The humans didn't try to outthink the Wraiths, they out-randomized them. Dr. Marcus Webb, a human engineer, stood before the same council that had mocked his species months earlier. His presentation was crude by their standards, hand-drawn, diagrams and simplified models, but it outlined a defense network that was beautifully, chaotically imperfect. You see, he explained, pointing to what looked like a child scribbling to the advanced aliens, we don't make our barriers perfect. We make them wrong in different ways, constantly changing, never settling into a pattern. The Wraiths can't adapt to chaos because chaos isn't a system, it's the absence of system. Within hours of implementing the human-designed defenses, the Wraith advance stopped. The entities, so perfectly adapted to countering perfect solutions, found themselves baffled by imperfection. They couldn't phase through barriers that didn't follow mathematical rules. They couldn't predict strategies that weren't strategically sound. For the first time in galactic history, the Void Wraiths retreated. Commander Zexthal stood before Ambassador Chen in the same chambers where he had once mocked her species. His posture was different now, respectful, humbled. The Galactic Council, he said formally, unanimously votes to grant humanity full membership, with all rights and privileges therein. Sarah nodded graciously. We accept, with gratitude. How? Vexara's question was barely a whisper. How did your imperfect species succeed where we failed? Sarah smiled, thinking of every human who had ever fixed a starship with spare parts, solved a problem with insufficient resources, or found a way forward when the way was blocked. Because, she said, we've never been able to afford perfection. We learned to make impossible things possible with whatever we had on hand. You call it primitive ingenuity. We call it being human. The galaxy had learned that sometimes the most sophisticated solution to a problem was to approach it like a species that had never learned that the problem was supposed to be unsolvable. And in the depths of space, watching through instruments, they barely understood. Humanity prepared to teach the galaxy that chaos, creativity, and a little bit of crazy could save the universe.